right. Good morning, I would say. Welcome to this press briefing by the European Union. As usual, we have today two speakers, Minister Marcin Korolec from Poland, Polish Presidency of the Council of the European Union, and Commissioner for Climate Action, the European Commission, Connie Hedegaard. And Minister, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations, Connie. On behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states, as the Polish presidency of the EU Council, I have the honor to express my truly great satisfaction on the outcome which we achieved here in this African COP. This is a historical moment. I think comparable only to, if not surprising, to the success of COP from 1995, when the Berlin Mandate was established, which led to the creation of the only legally binding international agreement to combat climate change, the Kyoto Protocol. Today, we adopted a Durban platform, which will lead us to a legally binding agreement to be completed by 2015, which will engage all parties, including the major economies. A lot of hard work has gone to achieve this. This is a significant success of the Polish presidency of the EU Council and European Commission, and I think especially of Connie Hedegaard. First of all, we succeeded in defining the pathway to the future by establishing a Durban platform, and that stands for what was expected by the EU as a roadmap, a key EU ask for Durban. This platform and the decision to start negotiations as of next year for a protocol, legal instrument or agreed outcome with a legal force stands a real chance to become an even greater achievement than the Berlin Mandate. The outcome of this platform should bind all parties to emission reduction in accordance with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. In addition, the decision on the KP side constitutes a substantial step forward towards a ratifiable second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol. With this outcome, we welcome that the world unites in efforts that form a sound basis to tackle climate change. Tonight, we proved that the Kyoto Protocol is alive and its international rule-based system is still very much relevant. Moreover, we have adopted a package of decisions under the Convention track represented significant achievements on adaptation technology, MRV, and financing, including issues with respect to the Green Climate Fund and long-term financing. While this package did not meet expectations of all, we would reassure the continued engagement of the EU and our will to conduct on outstanding issues next year. Climate change negotiations often take incredible steps and will use all the opportunities we will have in 2012. In the meantime, closing the ambition gap will continue to be our prime objective. We expect nothing less from parties than the full implementation of Cancun pledges, so that the commitments to the Kyoto Protocol by one group of parties does not mean the lack of mitigation effort by others. A lot of work remains to be done next year, but we are confident that the new Kyoto rules will also set the standards for the future legal instrument under the Convention. An engagement of those rules will allow parties to submit information on quantified emission reduction targets and move towards adopting a second commitment period in a framework of transition to a new protocol, legal instrument or agreed outcome with legal force under the Convention. And at this early morning, we are desperately willing to sleep, probably. Let me congratulate Connie. Good job. I think we succeeded.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin. And the same, this is a minister with only 3 weeks seniority as a minister, and he has already done a COP as EU president. That is quite extraordinary. Thank you very much for the cooperation, Martin. I would say that the EU strategy worked. We did not want Durban only to implement what was achieved in Copenhagen and Cancun. That, of course, is very important, and as Martin just said, the Polish minister said, that we also have achieved here, but we wanted more ambition. And it worked. The strategy is saying we will only commit to a second commitment period, although only very few others will do it. We are ready to do it, but only if in return we get a roadmap for the future. A roadmap with timelines. We had said no later than 2015, that we got. It had to start no later than 2020, that was achieved. And then, as you know, we wanted to be legally binding, and as we just have heard from the Polish minister, and as you have followed this night, that we also have, you could say, yes, but an agreed outcome with legal force. What then is that? That is the weakest of the options, but in Bali 4 years ago, the best parties could agree upon, that was agreed outcome. Now it's agreed outcome with legal force. That is the weakest of 3 options. People could wonder, normal citizens not attending climate conferences could say, and what difference does a roadmap mean? What does that mean for the fight against climate change? What we have achieved here in Durban is important because it makes a turn away from the 20th century where when we did the convention and the Kyoto Protocol, where the developed countries had to commit and others had to do voluntary actions. In the 21st century, we have a new reality. We are mutually interdependent, and what we have achieved tonight is that in the future, we can have different pledges, we can have different efforts, but whatever we pledge, whatever we do, must have the same legal value. I believe this is a big achievement, not just for the climate area, but for multilateral cooperation in the 21st century. So this is very important. I would also say that our very good cooperation over a long time and building up alliances with the least developed countries and OASIS, the most vulnerable states, that has definitely had an impact here. It was clear that the more the pressure worked on those who needed some pressure, the more we could see things moving in the position. But I would also say that it has been a very constructive atmosphere. I think that when we saw the Brazilian minister earlier this week announce that not only were they in favor of a legally binding deal, but they would also themselves be legally bound, and when we heard that the US were out with not exactly the same phrases, but also said something in that direction, we could see that things started to move. So that is, all in all, a very good achievement. Not that there are not many things we have to work for in the future also, but we have made a very significant step forward. And last point, yes, the fight against climate change is not just about these international conferences and texts and what have we. It's also about what we do in our respective countries, in our respective regions. And we will still go back to Europe and try to push for ambition, try to be much more energy efficient, try to make the transformation into a greener economy, because that is what the world needs, and we will try to be in a front-runner position there and lead by example. The very last thing is also the South African presidency deserves compliments for what they achieved tonight, and of course not the least Foreign Minister Mashebane, the COP president, and her team. They have had some very challenging days, but in the end they did it, and we congratulate them with that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's take a few questions. If you can, as usual, identify yourselves and the media you represent. Why don't we start with the gentleman in second row here? Thanks.
Hi, I'm Eric Lyman from BNA. Two-part question. First, we haven't had a chance to review the text. It's been very quick, but it seems like the EU got most of the big things that it was pushing for here. What is the thing that you would have liked to get that you didn't get? And then second is there's the contentious issue of AAUs, and especially between the two countries represented here. What is the final decision on carrying those things forward past 2012?
The AU's question was not the main point of negotiations. It's one of the things we have to resolve in a perspective of the next COP. There's a mechanism introduced in the text, and we have a time frame before us to solve that question.
Just another thing, we also said the LULUCF accounting rules, and we got the LULUCF accounting rules, but we thought it could have been stronger what we got because there is a problem in the way they are constructed, and that was, if you followed this night's deliberations, that was what this intervention about LULUCF, what that was all about, but that could not be done in this round.
Many thanks. Alex Morales with Bloomberg News. I have a question about the phrase that emerged in early this morning, agreed outcome with legal force. Chris Hoon says that his advice is that can't include COP decisions. Alf Wills, the South African negotiator, says that under South African law it can include COP decisions. If two countries have such different interpretations of it, how are you going to chart the path forward with such ambiguous language? And a second details question, how long is the second commitment period? Is it 2017 or 2020?
No, that is as it stands now, 5 years or 8 years. But what has been, and both figures are mentioned, if I do not have the text here, but I think we got this square bracket in, so it has to be resolved next year, whether it's 5 or 8 years. And why is that not done now? It's because it depends on when the other roadmap, when will the new thing enter into force. And we asked this evening not just to say 2017, but also have 2020 there. Obviously our targets are for 2020, but it depends on a lot of very, very technical stuff, and now we have to do some calculations on that, and then we have a date sometime next year where we will have to sort of come back to that. And the other question was, sorry, it's... oh, if you even can't remember it. So
Agreed outcome with legal force, the different interpretations by different countries.
Yeah, that is probably true, but we had a lot of lawyers around us, and that is, as I said, in Bali it was agreed outcome. Now it's agreed outcome with legal force. It is obviously not the solution that we will be fighting for in the European Union, but there are these three things, these three solutions. But the interesting thing is, I believe that it is under the convention. There is some text that is under convention, and that counts for both legal instruments and this new expression. So that means that sort of the old way of splitting countries into two groups, that we have done away with tonight. There can be different commitments, but they will have the same legal form. I'm sure that we will come back to that issue at the latest at COP 2015.
We move, just let the lady with the red shirt, just right behind Alex. Thank you.
Sonja van Rensen for European Energy Review. Again, a question on Kyoto. Can you clarify, has the EU signed up to a second commitment period since we got the roadmap, as you said? And secondly, you said the accounting rules on LULUCF have been agreed, AUs have not, but closing both those loopholes has been a condition for the EU to sign up to a second commitment period. So can you clarify, since AUs are not resolved, does this remain a condition and how will this play out? Thank you.
First, as I said, we got LULUCF accounting rules, and that is important, as we also got a lot of other stuff. We didn't get exactly the way we would have liked to have it, but that's not the same. It's because we have some countries, some member states, who have very much sustainable forestry, and they get not rewarded for having sustainable forestry. But that does not mean that we do not now have LULUCF accounting rules. Now we have international LULUCF accounting rules, and that was a key ask for the European Union. Have we signed up? No, we have not been out here since we ended signing up to the second commitment period. But we are taking a second commitment period, and that is clear. Why was it not sort of ratified here and now? Because we've said we want a ratifiable second commitment period. That's because the AAUs is not solved and the LULUCF accounting rules are brand new. We have to go back and calculate. In any case, we would have had to go back and calculate the QUELROs. That's also why it means something whether it's 2017 and 2020. So there's a lot of technical stuff. It sounds very easy, but it's not something you just do in a night or so. It's something that will take months to find out exactly how to do it.
And that was today, that was a political decision. Now we need send the text to lawyers and to make all ratification process in 27 member states and in a union. So this is long legal process ahead of us. But the political decision is here.
Okay, let's move to this part of the room. Natalia, you asked for the floor. The woman there. Thanks.
Nastasia Tay from Eyewitness News. Two quick questions. With regards to the text for the Durban platform and the original drafts, I think the issues were, one was around the legality and the other one was around ambition. The ambition text didn't seem to change very much from the second draft. I wondered if you had any comments about that and how happy you are about that. And secondly, in terms of the relationship between rich and poor countries, so this growing alliance with AOSIS and the LDCs, is that a relationship you see continuing into coming COPs and conferences?
First, that's true that there were things that were in some earlier drafts that we saw disappear last night. I think as late as 4 o'clock we saw new things just disappearing for also sometimes very strange reasons, but they did. So in that respect, it's not that we say that everything we have done here, that's just the best the world could hope for. This process is a process filled with compromises. And it's also a process where you have to have consensus. And that's, of course, also what makes it a very difficult process to manage. But we got new things. And, of course, it's also extremely important that we got the Green Climate Fund operational as we had wished, that we got the adaptation framework, the technology framework, things that were presented in Copenhagen and last year cashed in Cancun. Some of these things are here sort of finished, and the remaining things will finish within the next year. This about the rich and poor, yes, it is for sure that this is something that we will work on continuously. We have had a very good cooperation, as I said, with both LDCs and AOSIS, and I also think that we have it has been to the mutual benefit. So that has been a very good experience here. But of course, if it had only been EU and then the least developed and AOSIS countries, and then like a wall to others. But I thought that what we saw tonight was a strong will for many big economies actually in the end to find the right compromise.
Thank you. Why don't we take the last two questions so that we can let them get some rest. Lydia, you asked for the floor here, third row.
Thank you. Polita Clark, Financial Times. Some ministers from small island states have left here tonight saying that they're disappointed because they're convinced that what has been agreed is that the legal agreement won't come into force until after 2020, but you're suggesting that's not the case. They're also disappointed because they're saying that there is definitely going to be a gap, therefore, between the second commitment period and the time at which the legal agreement the new legal framework comes into force. So could you clarify that, please?
First, the gap, as I said, there are two things to be decided next year, 2017 or 2020. So there is something there to work on. But there is an ambition gap for the long term, but there is also one for the short term. And if you compare the first draft text that we worked with, the short text that we worked with yesterday in the small room, and the second draft, no, not the second, but the last draft, there you can see that we actually, EU and OSIS together, proposed and got into the text different elements to beef up ambition and a process for how to discuss and handle the ambition gap in the nearest term. Because that, of course, is important when only Europe and very few other countries take a second commitment period. What about the rest, and what about the gap we have according to staying below the 2 degrees? And the last paragraphs, 2 different paragraphs, try to address this also with a process where already before 28th of February next year, that is in 2-3 months, we have to sort of start to work on that process and then work first half of 2012 in order to find a way forward, in order to mend the ambition gap.
You asked for the floor, first row, and last question. Thanks. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Flora Meriki from Wena Environmental Magazine in Botswana. My question is with regards to the Green Climate Change Fund. I just want to know, as we speak right now, how much money is in this fund? And the other thing, developing countries have declared of the fact that these funds, they come in the form of loans. Who is going to administer this loan? This fund, thank you. Is it the GGF, is it the World Bank who's going to administer this? Thank you very much.
I think the Green Climate Fund is one of the big achievements of this meeting. We have administrative architecture done. We have pledges for some countries already. I don't know who outside of the Union, but there are already from European Union, Denmark, Great Britain, and Germany with pledges. So I think the financing is moving on.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.